Today, I want to talk about preschoolers. How can we teach preschoolers piano lessons? And why would we want to? Well, they are so fun, and stick around. We're going to have a good time talking about preschoolers. Let's get started. Today, in our presentation, we're going to talk about a preschool teaching toolkit. And there are three things we're going to talk about. Why preschoolers? What is a practice kit? And what approaches and piano methods are best? I started thinking about increasing my teacher income by targeting another age group in 2017. Let me share a little bit of my story right here. You see, I had started out as a classroom music teacher, and I taught in public school, kindergarten through 8th grade for several years. I was trained in Kodai and Orff, and I had a blast in the public school classroom. I changed to private teaching because I had a special needs son, and that schedule of public school wasn't working for my family. So I started teaching piano privately for many years until I moved to a new town. And all of a sudden, I lost all of my students. My husband had taken a pay cut. I needed to figure out how to replace my income. So I did two things. I started group lessons and I started preschool lessons. Today, we're going to talk about how I made preschool lessons work. And if you change your mindset and your objective, you can do it too. Let's get back to our slides. So, why should we teach preschoolers? Well, some of them can take lessons during the school day. That helps expand your schedule. You can have a greater impact. You can have these students for a longer time span. They will not ever forget the teacher who first introduced them to music. Their parents will be thrilled that you are giving them the gift of music, and that results in more referrals from happy parents, and you will have happy children in your studio. Here's a statistic for you. In 2021, this was during our pandemic, 4.1 million children were enrolled in preschools. And actually, only 50 to 59% of children were enrolled in a daycare or a preschool. So you can only imagine that that number is probably bigger today. There's a lot of children out there who need music. What are the obstacles in teaching preschoolers? They have smaller hands, they have short attention spans, active bodies, they can't read, and they have a limited singing range. I set out to find ways to overcome these obstacles, and I did. With smaller hands, I only used the long fingers, fingers 2 and 3 at first. I wanted to avoid 5-finger positions where the hands spread and cause problems with hand position. For shorter attention span, I had lots of activities ready, and I determined I was going to go with the flow and teach what they're focused on. You can be surprised. I have had preschoolers stay with me for 45, 50-minute lessons because they are dialed in to what I'm teaching them. Preschoolers have active bodies, so I used large motor activities whenever possible, and I let my students stand before the piano rather than sit, and that helped with their hand position and their technique as well. Preschoolers can't read, so I started teaching them by rote, and I included books with great pictures and few words. This is important. Please don't put a method book on the music stand that has a bunch of instructions for adults because it will be very distracting to the child. They are used to seeing storybooks and lots of books that are just for them. So find material that is just for them. Preschoolers can't sing a lot of different notes. 50% of kindergartners don't match pitch. That's okay. Just change the pitch of the song or speak the words instead of singing it. Don't forget that it's not just private lessons, it's group lessons, it's camps, it's asynchronous video lessons that can reach this age group. What are some overall approaches to young kids? In my training for public school music classroom, we used 3 ways of planning: physical prep, visual prep, and combining the sound with a musical symbol. First, physical prep. If we were going to talk about high or low, we would have our children stretch up high to the sky and crouch down low to the ground. And as we made the sound cues, we would have them do these big movements. I've also had during online lessons, students say things like long, short, short, and use their bodies in big ways. The visual preparation involves use of a visual picture or cue along with a sound cue, not musical notation. I'm going to show you an example because this can be a little tricky to wrap your mind around. So, taking a look at my iPad, here's a picture from The Little Red Piano, the book that I wrote for preschoolers. And when I'm teaching long and short, I just use these symbols, the long line and the short line. And when I'm ready to teach a song, I use long sprinkles, short sprinkles, and those visual symbols represent the sounds that I am asking the preschoolers to make. So first our visual prep, our physical prep, then our visual preparation, and then they are ready for a music note if you are going to introduce that at this time. So keep that in mind as you teach young kids, even your transfer students. If they don't get something, go back and use physical, go back and use visual, and then see if they don't get what you're trying to teach. I like to treat the piano like an orff instrument. And so this is important because in my music classroom, when I did steady beat, I started out with a vertical motion. We patted our legs. Pat, pat, pat. Very similar to when we have these mallets and we tap, tap, tap the beat on our orff instrument. So try not to ask young children to clap, clap, clap until they are really good at tapping their legs. And then you can do some things like left, right, and reinforce some of the steady beat that you're trying to appropriate. And want to also just remind you that the piano has different regions. So on my piano, I will show you middle C, which is right here. And I like to use music that uses bass C on down for a bass line for my students. So they might just play one note. C, C, G, one finger at a time. As they progress, we might use an open fifth, a C and a G, and we might play half note, quarter, quarter, and play patterns with those notes. We can even use two hands. Half note, quarter, quarter, and just play that over and over. And then we can also use melody up here in the top region of the piano. And you can have lots and lots of fun with the three different parts of the piano when you are teaching young kids. You can have all sorts of fun in group lessons and private lessons. All right, getting back to our presentation, we need practice kits. These are good for online, in-person lessons, even asynchronous lessons. I've used these kits for my group lessons and my private lessons. Now don't worry, I have a PDF that will give you links to all the things we're going to talk about in the practice kit. But it looks like this, and it fits into a 3-ring binder. I mail these to my students who are in the US, and I cover the cost with a registration fee. Now, students are going to lose these things, so you will need to send an Amazon link when some of your items get lost. What do we use these things for? The alphabet cards are from Joy Marin and her site, Color in My Piano. I've just shown one set here, but you can make A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You can make several sets. And in your studio in person, you can have students just take all these cards and say, make a snake from the letter A. And they'll start with A and they'll just make a long line on your floor. They might even turn that line and curve it. Some of them get really crazy and make a very curvy snake. Then you can say, let's take up the cards and start from the letter C. Can you make a snake? C, D, E, F, G. We start over on A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Start over on A. Fun game to do in your studio. You'll also want to include some highlighters, some colored erasable pencils, a pencil, a regular pencil, dice. I give them the chance to roll. Even my online students will throw it in the air and I'll let them run across the room and see what number they get. It gets their wiggles out. They love to roll the dice. Buttons, coins, and erasers are for games where you can play 3 times in a row perfect. Maybe you put all of your erasers on the left side of the piano, and when a student plays it correctly, you have them move that all the way to the right side of the piano. And you can have them find the white key C with your eraser. Can you find all the C's on the piano? Lots of fun for students. I play a race with my students with flashcards. They start on the low end of the piano over here with an eraser, and I start on the very top end. And we might show them a card with a C and they move their marker to here. Then it's my turn. Maybe I get a G and I'm moving down, they're moving up, and we see who gets to middle C first. Most of the time it's them because they have fewer keys if they start at the bottom. Choose the right book for preschoolers. You have several choices. These are the ones I have used If you start with one and it doesn't work, you can pivot, not a problem. If you have children and siblings in your studio, you might want to use different books. I'm going to review these 5 books because these are the ones that I use. There are supplements with some of the books, and you can just have fun and go with the flow. Music for Little Mozarts has been around since May 2005. There's a lesson book, a recital book, a workbook, discovery books, Christmas books, all kinds of books. Ages 4 to 7 is what the publisher recommends, but I've used it with even older children. There are 4 levels from pre-reading all the way to leading into Alfred Premier 1B. I love the way that these books integrate with Piano Maestro app, and they are very pedagogically sound. But the story and the graphics sometimes feel outdated to me, so when I'm teaching with it, I don't get into the story that much, and sometimes when I'm in books 3 and 4, the hands together songs feel a little too much for some of my students. Let's talk about my first piano adventures. First published in 2007, the publisher says ages 5 to 6, but I've used it with younger children and older. For each level, there's a lesson book, a writing book, and a supplemental book. There are 3 levels, and Book C leads to Piano Adventures Level 1. What's great about these books? There's audio and teacher support, and the Piano Atlas is great for online teaching. There's a wonderful emphasis on technique, and if you use the writing book, there's composing and improvising activities. The music is super fun. Wonder Keys is what I used in January 2017 when they came out with the 2nd edition. I loved this because I could go down to age 3 with these books. And there's 1 book for each level of preschool teaching. Book 1, Book 2, and Book 3 are the preschool Piano for Preschoolers books. They're available on Amazon, so it's easy to send the link to anyone, anywhere. What I loved about it is we started with foundations. We started with things like long and short, high and low, up and down. These are things that preschoolers need to know when they get to kindergarten. In my classroom music setting, I expected them to know long, short, high, low, up, down, same, different, stop and go, all those things. And so this book helps prepare them. They have lots of free supplements on their website. That's the really great thing about Wonder Keys. There's a lot of printables, free graphics for you to use, social media, images, and teacher support. The thing that is hard is that it uses all 5 fingers, and that is really hard for most kids. But it does have great pedagogy, as I've mentioned, and it covers beat, rhythm, visual skills, and math. There are games in every 2 lessons of Wonder Keys. Here's another great series to check out, Tiny Tinkle's Town. They can start on this as young as 2. There are 18 books to choose from. They are storybooks. You can read this to a child as young as 2 over and over and over, and they will start learning music. There's some activity and composing books, performance books, and more. If you want some supportive videos that show you more about how these books work, there's a YouTube channel, and the course for teachers is out, and you can learn more from the author about how to use these books. All the books are on Amazon, and more resources are at Teachers Pay Teachers. I found a gap in the books that I wanted to address, and that's why I wrote The Little Red Piano. It's flexible, it's for preschool, special needs, or young children. And it's one book available on Amazon. You can get the digital version on pianomusicforkids.com. And I have one level now, other levels in development. What is great? It moves slowly and sequentially. It addresses those pre-elementary school objectives, long, short, high, low, up, down, and it uses the piano. It's flexible for different situations. You can only use 1 or 2 fingers at a time if you want. You will have some rote teaching, but you'll have those visual representations, and you have moments of creativity and exploration that the children can do at the piano. You can use this as a supplement to other books. It's not a theory book, but there are some coloring pages and home activities. You can use the home activities as lesson activities. I have made this into a studio licensed digital book or a camp. Explore Music is a great book for students who are past that foundation series and into pre-reading. It covers theory for levels 1 through 3 in our NFMC and TMTA syllabus. It's one book available on Amazon, and we do have other levels in development. What it does, it supplements the method books, the ones we're talking about that teach note reading. It has all of the pages blown up really big. The images are big. Young hands can write in this book. There's QR codes with videos, games, and coloring pages. It's sequential, but you don't have to complete it all at once, and it feels fun, not a boring theory book. Dino Notes is what I created for my students, that I wanted them to be able to draw real music notes. So I created this book. It has some supplementary instructional material in it, and it has one book available on Amazon. This is the Dino Notes theme. Look for other themes, also fairy notes. We're going to have unicorn notes, we're going to have ballerina notes, we're going to have large things. It has large spaces between the lines. I think this is actually incorrect. It's 1/2 inch between the lines. You can use it alongside other method books. It has lots of room for kids to write. And again, you have QR codes that show them step by step how to draw notes and clefs. I've included the US and the UK terminology for notes. It's very fun, and kids love to write their own music. Ultimately, you are the method. You, with your affection, your kindness, observing the young students, evaluating them, being flexible, that's what is going to reach your young students. If you want to email me, my email address is k@pianomusicforkids.com. And as a thank you for watching this video, you can use Thank You 10 for 10% off of anything in my digital store. I hope that you have enjoyed learning a little bit more about practice toolkits and about teaching preschoolers. Contact me. Let me know how it's going with teaching young kids in your studio.